Hello again and welcome to the Warhammer 40k Imperial Guard Tactics video. So before we get into today's video, I want to say a super huge thank you to Aaron Grant for sending in these really cool pictures of his boys holding the line against some filthy Tau Xeno scum. Absolutely love the paint scheme you've done on these guys, Aaron. Really think it suits the models really well. Tanks look fantastic, and the conversion work you've done on the Sentinel, it's really impressive. So absolutely massive thank you for sending in your pictures. And of course, looking good in your Mordian Glory t-shirt. Thank you for supporting the channel and for buying one of those t-shirts. It looks absolutely fantastic. And yeah, if anyone else has got any cool pictures they want to send in to for me to use in my videos, there will be a link to my Facebook page down in the description below. Please can you post them there. If you send them to me by email, I don't check my emails very often, so if you send them to me by email, I probably won't see them. If you put them on my Facebook page, I can take a look, and if they look good, I'll use them in my videos. That's fantastic. So, without further ado, let's crack on with the video. So I'm going to be doing a bit of an after-action analysis, after-action report from the battle I had this weekend, and that's in the battle report that I put up on Monday, with my Mordian 50th rifles taking on Johnny's Tau Empire forces. If you haven't seen it, go and check it out. And yeah, it was a really good battle, but I learned some things. Or should I say I relearned some things, because it's been about a year since I really got back into using my pure infantry. Okay. Or should I say it's been about a year since I used my pure infantry army. When I obviously in 6th and 7th edition, I was pure infantry all the way. 8th edition dropped, things like Russes and Hellhounds and all those other good things started coming back and becoming more useful again. So for the last year, I have been experimenting and trying different unit combos. Sometimes that's worked, sometimes it hasn't. But what I have sort of pledged to do, and I'm enjoying it immensely, is going back to my pure infantry armies. Okay, they're the ones that I know the best. It's like putting on a comfortable pair of slippers. However, because I haven't used my tactics in about a year, I played sort of 3 or 4 games recently using it, I have had to relearn some serious lessons from back in the day. And I think those lessons are quite well shown in the battle, but there's still a few things that I want to talk about. So, for example, the battle report took 8 hours to record. That's a new record. Okay, me and Joy spent all day doing it. We were being fairly relaxed. Okay, but what I found is when you're recording a battle report, it takes about double the amount of time it would take to than if you were just playing normally. It shouldn't do, but it always seems to. You've got takes and retakes and all that other stuff, and it just seems to takes a lot longer. So even if we weren't recording, this battle would have taken 4 hours, and we only got to 5 turns. And we were relatively quick setting up. What I think was one of the big things that I relearned with the army was the need to have standardization. Now, I was able to keep track of things relatively well, but the fact that some of my squads had grenade launchers, some had melter guns, some had las cannons, some had plasma guns, it did mean that it slowed things down, because I had to physically check what each squad had. I noticed that with my assault squads, which all just had 1 melter in, they were really quick. But my shooting squad, which had quite a big mix of weapons, I found that they were taking a long time for me to shoot. Because I had to, rather than just looking at a squad and knowing it's got a las cannon and a plasma gun and just being able to fire off, those 2 weapons together, I had to look, has it got a plasma gun? Has it got a grenade launch? Do I want to shoot frag? Do I want to shoot crack? Are those veterans? Are they going to shoot crack? Are they going to shoot frag? So I would definitely say that the list needs some streamlining, and it's a big important lesson. If you're going to play pure infantry, especially if you want a game done in an afternoon, or if you're going to a tournament, you may only have a 2.5 hour limit on your time, including deployment. 2 hours 45 minutes is probably the most you'll find. Then you're going to have to be able to be quick with a pure infantry list. And if you're going to be quick, practice will do you well, but having a standardized, homogenized list where you know that every single one of your 5 support squads is plasma gun, las cannon, and every single one of your assault squads is a flamer, then, in my case, I'd like melter guns. that would make a big difference and speed things up. Now, in terms of what worked and what didn't work within the list, my las cannon support squads were stinking it up all game. They were bad. Even with real ones to hit on most of them, they were still struggling to connect. They did okay, but then my opponent, Johnny, had a couple of turns where he was lucky. You know, instead of making 1 out of 3 saves, he made 2 out of 3 saves. And it really did put a dampener on my firepower. So I'm still a massive believer in go big or go home. I just think that you have to, if there are ways to manipulate it. I think Cadian is really, the regiment Cadian is really good for this. Because Cadian encouraged quite static play anyway. And if I'd had one of my detachments with just 6 las cannons, plasma gun squads in there, and then they would have had enough orders to have take aim on all of those las cannons, then it would have made a huge difference. And I could have had much better connectivity with my shots. So that's something to be aware of for sure. Now, so yeah, that's one thing that didn't work. That's one way I would improve it. Autocannon squads were distinctly average. They struggled against a lot of targets. Like at first I was shooting them against the hammerhead and they were struggling to hit. Struggling to damage it. I was shooting against the stealth teams, I was struggling to hit. What they were really good at killing was infantry. They just pulverized fire warriors without any problems. But what they did do a very good job at killing was the piranha. Now, obviously, one piranha was taken out by the veterans, but it was taken out by grenade launchers, which are kind of like autocannon shots, and the other one was taken out by my actual autocannons. And those autocannon squads, they're cheap. They're only 56 points for 3 autocannons, and so I don't care if they live or die. If I come across an army like Dark Elder and they're using a lot of Raiders and Ravagers, then I am going to be very grateful for my autocannons because they are really good at shredding light vehicles. If I come across an army where they're not quite as potent, like, for example, a Tau armoured force, then they're still going to attract a lot of attention. They're still going to die, but they're not. But I don't really care because they're almost like a distraction card affects them. And if I come across them like a Horde army, well, it's a little bit overkill, but that's still 18 shots those things are pumping out. They've got a high enough rate of fire to be able to threaten infantry. So they're a pretty good all-round weapon. I wasn't massively blown away by them, but I wasn't disappointed either. And for an autocannon, which is a take-all-comers weapon, that's kind of the result you want. That's definitely kind of the result you want. The 48-inch range was really good. But so yeah, they were definitely solid mid-tier. They weren't that useful in this game, but I think they're always going to be a solid, do-okay unit. Same for my sniper squads. They were consistently just smashing mortal wounds out. They had some cold turns, they had some hot turns, but generally I'd say average. My 3 sniper squads were putting out 2 wounds a turn. Consistently putting out 1 to 2 mortal wounds, consistently putting out 1 to 2 regular wounds. Pretty much, you can't ask for much more from what is a 35-point squad and 3 of them. It's not a lot. It's not a lot at all. So they did really well. Astropaths were obviously fantastic, but I was lucky. I only failed 1 psychic power throughout the whole game. Now, I did have to use a few command points here and there to get my psychic powers off, but that is pretty lucky. The Psychic Maelstrom Astropath was absolutely fantastic. But again, I'm not going to rely on that. I know that was a one-off. I'm happy if I get 2 powers off a turn. Okay. I'll tell you what was consistently awesome in the army, though. Consistently good. Was my las gun assault squads. Now, they had melter guns in there. The melter guns I don't think hit anything all game. Didn't care. The las guns were absolutely fantastic. First rank fire, second rank fire on all those las guns meant that each squad was putting out like 32 shots. And when I combined like those 3 squads together and started blasting away, put volley fire on them, I was getting like 150 shots from 1 squad with all the extra dice generated by volley fire. So that's a really powerful unit. inadvertently, that game kind of created a guard Death Star. It's a big thing, and I want to do a video on it separately. It's a big thing with people have about about consolidating squads, or you should only consolidate broken units. But I proved in that battle that if you consolidate big squads together, and you have Commissar nearby, you've got 2 commanders you spend to keep them fearless if you need to. You start putting Psychic Barrier on them, you start putting Nitride on them, you can put Take Cover on them. Suddenly, you've got a Guardsman squad, which has got, in cover. If you did this in cover, you have a Guardsman squad which has got a 2+ save, -1 to hit. That's unbelievable. Because you've got 5+ naturally, 1 for Psychic Barrier, 1 for Take Cover, 3 up, 1 for being in cover, 2 up. I didn't even need I wasn't even in cover, but that was a really, really good Death Star unit. And what that made me realise, and this is going to lead me on to a second point, is they were really, really good. And they just put out so much firepower. And the Lasguns killed everything. The Lasguns killed the crew, the Fire Warriors, the drones, did some damage to the stealth suit. They killed Longstrike. Did 8 wounds to Longstrike, something crazy with my Lasguns. And it had to be done. Because my Lascannon, Grenade Launcher, Plasma Squads, they were stinking it up. They were stinking it up. And what it kind of made me realise, and this leads on to the second point, is the reason why those Lasgun squads were so effective is because they were constantly, this came into my tactics, pushing forward, putting pressure on the enemy. They weren't passive. They weren't like firing off a few Lascannon plasma gunshots here and there. They were in the enemy's face, constantly keeping the momentum in the Guards' favour. And by keeping the momentum in the Guards' favour, we were able to dictate the flow of the game. The Tau were forced to gunline. That's not a position. And that sounds crazy. It's not actually a position that a lot of Tau want to be in. Tau are meant to be a manoeuvrable force. And you've seen battle reports on this channel where I have been resoundingly beaten by Tau when I have been too static, and I've tried to gunline, and the Tau have been jumping all over the place, killing me here, killing me there, chipping away, scything off a chunk of my army. This game I had learnt. I have to maintain the momentum and force my opponent into a situation he doesn't really want to be in, which is gunline. Because by the time he's dealt with all my infantry coming at him, guess what? It's the end of the game, and the objectives are in my hands. So that's a really important feature. So I want to do a second video, okay? Because this list that I used, I don't think it's perfect. I think it's good, but there are some serious improvements that can be made, okay? Streamlining, homogenizing the list. These concepts I've talked about before. I don't want to be having to look at each squad and being like, oh, plasma gun or grenade launcher. No, that slows everything down. Okay, slows everything down. I need to streamline the list. My assault units were consistently way, way better than my fire support units. For me, that shows me that I need to be getting more assault units. I do. I need to be putting the pressure on the enemy. Lasguns can win games in 8th edition. And that game proved to me that Lasguns can literally kill anything. And they are a powerful, powerful weapon. Just need to throw so many dice at the enemy that they get ground down. And you need to have them crunchy combos. I need to be able to remove cover with astropaths. I need to be able to put orders on things. I need to still have threats, distraction kind of effects, like my autocannons and stuff like that. I need those threats, but the main bulk of my army, 90 assault infantry did okay. Let's say 180 do. But how am I going to do that with going forward? That's going to be a topic for another video. So I might release the set part 2, Infantry Tactics Boogaloo. I might release that tomorrow or early next week. Anyway, guys, leave lots of comments. Tell me about sort of what you thought about my list, the tactics I used, what you thought worked, what didn't work, and your own pure infantry tactics and your own lists which have been working. Because I'm distilling, I'm evolving this list, and I'm a little rusty. I'm a little rusty with my pure infantry, but I'm learning my lessons quickly. So thank you for watching, guys, and I'll see you guys next time.